It's time for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom review for the Nintendo Switch. This is my 200th review. Thank you to everyone who supported my channel, whether at the beginning with Brawl, somewhere in the middle, or maybe this is the first video you've seen on my channel. Regardless of where you've begun, thank you for your support. And now, onto the review. Back on my initial interest video for the June 2024 Nintendo Direct, I said I was excited and surprised that we were even getting a new Zelda game in 2024. Was my initial interest level correct, or did I overhype myself up? Let's find out. The beginning has you play as Link and his fight with Ganon while a trapped Zelda watches from above. Upon defeating Pig-Boy, Link suddenly gets swallowed into a mysterious void, but manages to shoot an arrow at Zelda's imprisoning crystal just before disappearing. You now get to play as Zelda, who runs from an increasingly growing void and manages to escape outside. After a few key sequences play out, it is determined that Zelda is the cause of the many rifts throughout the land and is placed in Hyrule's prison. While in her cell, she meets a mysterious creature who introduces himself as Tri and gifts Zelda with a powerful rod called the Tri-Rod. With it, she can create echoes, which are copies of specific objects Zelda can summon. With the rod and her new lemon friend at her side, she escapes the dungeon and begins her quest to restore Hyrule. As you explore the world, you'll come across dozens of objects and enemies you can learn as echoes, and each one can help you along your journey. The trampoline is arguably one of the best utility-based echoes in the game, but even a bed, if properly placed, can help you reach newer heights. Not only that, but feel free to take a nap anywhere you'd like and restore your hearts in no time. Tri is the source of your power. His three little triangles that float behind him represent the level of your echo power. Each echo costs at least one triangle to summon, and higher level echoes will subsequently cost more. As you journey throughout, you'll come across rifts in the land, and Tri can create an entrance into the rift and will lead you into what's known as the Still World. Here, void monsters roam about while anything and anyone who was captured in the rift is frozen in time and space. To fix the rift, you'll need to find all of Tri's friends, which are ethereal beings like Tri, who are captured in Still World. Each Still World isn't too large, and finding Tri's friends usually takes a matter of minutes. Once you've found all the lemons, the rift will dissipate and the affected land, objects, and beings will return to normal. The game has a feeling of open world to it, and for the most part it is, but there are specific sequences that must take place in order for you to advance. The main missions are to investigate and fix the large rifts in certain parts of the land. These are a portion of the main dungeons of the game, and thankfully, unlike the small rifts, don't take a matter of minutes to complete. The difficulty of each area, and really the whole game in general, comes down to which echoes you have at your disposal. Honestly, there were times when I was in a section of a dungeon that I wasn't too sure how to complete unless I had the one specific echo I had to help me through it. I'm sure it's possible to use different echoes than what I used, but I'm telling you, there are a handful of areas that if you don't have a certain echo, good luck getting past it. There's no good reason to not learn an echo, and finding them isn't difficult. It's fun to just wander around and explore not only for side quests and special areas to uncover, but to also see what kind of echoes you might find. Most are different monsters that will fight for you, and it's awesome to summon an army to defend you. I initially thought the handful of first echoes I learned wouldn't really come in handy later in the game, but that wasn't completely true. Instead of summoning a brute to do thy bidding, sometimes it was strategically better to summon inexpensive echoes if you use them in a certain way. However, sometimes it was also fun to just get in there and do the dirty work yourself. The mechanics of summoning echoes was done very well. I at first thought echoes would automatically dissipate after a short while, or perhaps that I would have to expel them first to summon others, or maybe even wait for a cooldown. Nope, none of this is true. You can keep summoning until you run out of triangle power, and even then, you can instantly summon other echoes, which will in turn cause the first echoes to disappear. I also liked the fact that you could get rid of all your echoes at once by holding down ZR. This came in handy in certain places, and overall, I can't think of a better way to not limit the player in the usage of echoes. As I said, most echoes are monsters, but that doesn't mean all don't have any utility or puzzle-solving purposes. The Crawlchula was one of my favorites near the beginning, as after you get it, there's almost nowhere you can't get to. It was really cool being able to just walk on the treetops and find your own shortcuts to places. One thing I liked about echoes was that they couldn't hurt Zelda, for the most part. Direct echo attacks wouldn't damage her, but effects could, such as getting hurt by the fire my Poe echo leaves behind. I think it should be one way or the other. Either all echo attacks and effects don't hurt me, or all do, which would force me to strategize more. The graphics are the same cute style as the Switch version of Link's Awakening, but the world is loosely based on the map of A Link to the Past. However, as far as map size goes, it's much larger than Link's Awakening, which is to be expected seeing how the original was for Game Boy. The aesthetics are great, with vibrant colors and smooth textures throughout. Only problem is the frame rate. If you're just standing still or at the most moving the camera around, it's 60 FPS. However, once you start moving, it immediately drops to 30. I wouldn't mind it if the entire game was at 30, and the 60 to 30 drop isn't game-breaking or anything, but it is kind of annoying the more you notice it. The worst part, though, is when it dips below 30, and a few times I experienced full pauses. They only lasted like a tenth of a second or so, but they were definitely noticeable, and it's so strange that Nintendo released the game with the frame rate being this shaky. The controls are better than Link's Awakening, see how you're able to fluidly move around in any direction instead of 8 preset directions. Now, this may just be me, but I wish the controls had been customizable. Summoning an Echo is done by pressing Y, but I couldn't help feel like ZR should be the button to do this. Maybe this is because she holds the rod in her right hand, and perhaps also it's because she can expel echoes with ZR. Another annoyance was the swimming controls. I really felt that A should be to surface and B to dive underwater, not the other way around, even though admittedly B is to jump and surfacing with B just makes sense. For my brain though, I think I want it reversed because A is physically above B on the controller. Now, I know this may all sound trivial, and it doesn't objectively cripple the player, but having the option to customize the controls would have been nice. The music sounded great and charming overall, with some of my favorites being Gerudo Desert, and Seaside Village. The boss fights, for the most part, were a pretty good challenge, and the majority didn't feel too easy. Now, this can be different from person to person depending on which echoes you have at your disposal when you encounter bosses. This is the same for mini-bosses, and I'm glad some optional ones were added to the game. Zelda's first real adventure is a great one. I was really hoping the echo mechanic wasn't going to be overwhelming, or like every single echo had one specific purpose, and thankfully this isn't the case. Unfortunately, the frame rate struggles were annoying and perplexing to be perfectly honest. Not having customizable controls was somewhat disappointing. I wasn't a fan of the inconsistency when it came to certain echoes damaging me, but most don't, and even though there are many side quests to complete, I thought the main campaign itself could have been a little longer. Plus, I found that the game in general was a bit too easy, and in some cases, too generous to the player. As an example, Zelda doesn't get hurt if she falls off screen, and certain scenarios only delay her instead of damaging, like here, she doesn't lose health when being shocked. However, being able to strategize with puzzles and battles is the main focus, and with over 120 echoes at her side, Link, you can take a break because Zelda can handle things herself. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.